Roché, are you with us? Can you hear us? Are we audible? Are you audible? Okay, you are here. I can see you, and I'm gonna mute myself and let you continue.
Oh, apologies,
All good.
everybody. Just when I was getting so into it, like technology decided to fail me. I've just had to move spots in my house because somehow God hates me and loves me at the same time. And let me just continue with the last poem, the translation. So this is a Model C province. There it was, that accent trying to pageant English, parading unclothed diction in the street. That standard of this is Parker's spiders, like a Chinatown wig on the tar, and Blondie, blinded by anger, screams, go back to the Cape Flats where you belong. Something in me knew, enunciation of this one was not giving main province vibes. This likely hails from Putsch or some other Free State geography, where Aryan German features stand as aspiration. With knotted tongue, amnesia flashbacks that here in Parkhurst, blonde is laughable amidst the new black. I wish I was that Kwai, that Cape Flat, to flat, to colored and speak. Tomorrow you are burner in your flat, sir. Lock your doors. The number is en route. Burglar bar your windows and your teeth. Those pearly whites are now gemoed. Get a patch to relieve your eye, pop eye. No rest after you see the state of your nation. But in my brown skin and my post 1994 Model C schooling, all I could muster was, I'm from the northern suburbs. My land-lusting ancestors in the Boerland were probably turning in their graves shame. My lack of flats choppy and Blondie's vitriol and sent no scare or intimidation, just a palpable and palatable education. Okay, I love all the political stuff. Yeah, things always nice with a love girl. When the stars align and each breath feels like magic, I need not check the reasons. It is simple. It is you. The wisp of your hair, your smile, your eyes. My God, your eyes. I am a believer again. I will spread this gospel. This is faith. I'm reaching over oceans, imagining your joy in my palms, nurturing it, guarding it, making a treasure of us. I've seldom felt one who makes me better. You are medicinal, a gift of enhancement, a daring to stretch, a spiritual expansion, an inevitability of healing, an aspiration to touch. You are sea and sand and geckos occupying space. You are red ants that do not bite and stray dogs who wish for a home. You are a meditation in a noisy world, a semblance of peace, a knowing beyond, a knowing of calm. If God were a woman, her reflection is uncanny, a reincarnationing, traveling fearlessly, leaving only a trail of hope. To be better than you has always been a dream. To be better than me is seeing you. Okay. Um, let's do this. So, gosh, I don't know, like when I say God loves and hates me at the same time, I'm not joking. I can go out I haven't been really going out much since I've come back to Joburg from Cape Town since December. And I've just really been homebound. I've gone out a few times. And of course, as luck would have it, when I went out, fun on the side of the streets. So it's so interesting because in European countries, right, there's this practice where if someone removes a condom during sex, it's called stealthing, and it's actually illegal and deemed as rape in European countries, but not in South Africa. And of course, we've got so many politics around rape and consent, and then also, just victims having to consistently, well, particularly in the court of law. And I work practically in that arena in my day-to-day job, when we deal with victims of sexual assault or sexual violence, and how they consistently have to prove that they were violated. And in addition to that, they also have to be very graphic about the details of what the trauma looked like. And so the question always arises, particularly in relation to sexual assaults, like why don't people speak up, or why don't they report these things? And I think it's because our system also is so harsh on victims and survivors, and it's a strenuous process to consistently having to relive this trauma, and also to have your voice known, right? So when I bumped into this person last weekend, it was really horrific for me, because I saw, and I mean, this incident had happened quite years ago, and I've since gotten over it. But when I saw him, I was just like, there was nothing in me that could possibly have shut myself down to be like, to condone the space of rapists. And I think that's what we do a lot in South Africa, particularly even with our former, president who was accused of rape. We kind of try to cushion the fact that this happened, or almost make it as not as vile as it is of an act. And this individual then decided to follow me around the entire evening when we were out. And the insinuations were that he should have been better to me. And I was like, yeah, you should not have raped me, firstly. Secondly, he says, he kind of insinuated that I liked him. And I'm like, no, I don't like you. You make me nauseous. You make me want to throw up. Literally, you remind me of bile, like that yellow substance that happens after actual throwing up. And so I just thought about this poem that I had written in relation to him that time, and I was like, okay, let me get this thing out of my system, because I think that with sexual assault and sexual violence, there's so many things that is based on victim blaming, and more so on the fact that we're supposed to be, that we kind of skirt around these issues in our society when sexual assault happens so often. And I mean, to such a degree that we don't actually know the extent of victims in South Africa, because people are just so scared to firstly be under scrutiny about the entire, violation, and then also they just put on trial for having experienced something that was so violating and so dehumanizing. So this is the story of me being stealth, and it's very time signature poem, very amateur writing from back then, but I thought I'd share it anyway. So this is called Fuck No. Fuck no, these things don't happen to me. I've got common sense. Hell, I've got a university degree, is what I would have said. But lust, bless her, had a hold on me. And with my recently lost virginity, I was on some sordid mission to fuck like an energizer bunny. So silently, in the confines of my room, I'd envision whomever, whatever, grabbing me from behind, lingering their fingers between my thighs, trailing their tongue up my spine, heated elation and satisfied cries. But of course, some dreams remain desires until that night. Imagine faux pas poetry fame, you know the kind, where you've just stepped off stage high on the fact that everybody knows your name, basking in the knowledge that the audience paid their way to stretch their ears to hear you play your rhyming, timing, and image games. Outside the venue, cigarette puckered between my lips, distraction inserts itself in the form of that clean herb. Brave from stage, I announce, that sure smells good. From beyond the other side of the green partition, a voice replies, I could not refuse a lady, that would just be rude. So as he stepped forward and I inched closer, he shifted the divider between us. Our worlds connected, infected by the meeting of our eyes. He held up the joint, and so started the high of our story. Shaken, small talk persists. Where do you live? What's your name? Would you like more? Sure. And another hit is taken. Mistaken, time flew, spellbound in verbal cues, THC and lusty use. I leave without a Cinderella clue, except for my face in that book and the address of the venue. So when we texted and messaged, and when I found myself in his hood, I called and he answered. He furnished me with cocktails, leading me to his room where I closed my eyes. He grabbed me from behind, lingering his fingers between my thighs, trailing his tongue up my spine, heated elation and satisfied cries. But common sense kicked in. Condom, no, go get some, go. As I lay basking, my desires almost met, naked and longing, reflexively wet. It then hit me. I'm about to have loveless sex. He then entered the door, pushing, knocking, side to side, languid strides, heated cries, and as we lay disarray, door hinges creaking, fueling for another entry, he pushed again, to my disdain, harder, faster, door, and plummets. I opened my eyes, and on his stool, no protection. I lurched up in shock and start the investigation. No condom, my protestation. The full arms behind his head answered. That door swung open before I could clad this erection. Me. He was blaming me. We've established that I've recently lost my virginity. What would I know about how loveless condomless sex feels? I leave shaken, totally mistaken that my desire of having someone grab me from behind, linger their fingers between my thighs, trail their tongue up my spine would only result in satisfied cries. Doctor, morning after health, 72 hours, window period, monthly period, closed door, ARVs, nausea, panic, insomnia, fear, disease, tests, threats, blood, contamination. 3 months later, I get tested with bated breath as I hear the words negative. Relief ensues, sleep resumes. But the 6 month test is still to come. Monitoring symptoms is all I've done. Is this a cold? Are these night sweats, period pimples, or a rash? Brash on myself because I would have said, fuck no. Those things don't happen to me. I've got common sense. Hell, I've got a university degree. But truth be told, is HIV knows no creed. Sixing fairy tale boy means I've been wherever he has been. So I'll say it anyway. Fuck no. Do I fuck? No. Will I fuck? No. The door on loveless sex is closed. Okay. So yeah, I think for me, it's weird because at this point in time, I've kind of been celibate for a year. I don't know. It's maybe by choice. I think it's by choice. Also because yeah, I've just been scarred by my previous relationship, which has been really horrid. I don't know why I keep meeting these really undelightful people that just seem to scar me. So for this period of time, like I haven't had coitus with anybody in about a year, and it doesn't really bother me that much. But maybe one day, who knows? I'm like at this stage, if it ever happens again, I'll be fine. There's really not this a horrific urge, but I just keep on thinking about, this power play of what sexual relations mean, particularly in a heteronormative patriarchal society, and how it's often used as a tool, to kind of oppress further or to put someone in their place or objectify them or silence them even. And so, I mean, in addition to the first incident of stealthing, there was another incident of stealthing. You see, these things just also happened to me. Fun. So I wrote this poem and it's called Whisper in the Wind. To shout the name would mean nothing. It fills my mouth with dust. My voice is now a desert chord, an inhalation of pain. I would still be here, memory jarred, soul tainted, body violated, barely afloat in trauma, having to explain validate the time, the date, the state of mind, forced to reimagine over and over again, like it were happening now, like an excavation of a burial in my past, when I would rather forget. To say your favorites are them too is a blip in the ocean, a whisper in the wind, a dull headache behind the eyes, of outing yourself first, walking scarlet lettered, a shame, no point now coined braved, then reduced to a hashtag, invisible in the masses, when you say hashtag me too. But it did happen, and the words cannot escape. It hurts the throat, violates the mouth, desecrates everything. You maimed them free. You no celebrity, nor national news, just statistic. Their allies would avoid your name like a plague, like it never happened, like you made it up, like the truth is only held in your rib cage, like your lungs still inflate the same. They do not. You try to forget. You just try every day. But no one will let you, parading pain like each story is the same. They make you a whisper in the wind. So you won't, you just don't breathe too loud. You make no sound, hoping it will expel itself someday, somehow, some way. Okay, these are all really fun poems. um, I think I've got two more, and then I think I'll open the floor for some questions. It's such a difficult thing for me personally to find motivation to live every day. I know that sounds rather melancholic, and I often look at the motivation of other people, and what is the driving force in relation to wanting to breathe? Because I've always felt that this world is overtly violent. The systems that regulate it are also exceptionally violent and stratified, and also, kind of built to a sense to create erasure of, um, or rather to create dominion of one human being over another. And then, in addition to that, also to strip people of the autonomy, particularly women, particularly people who are minorities, or to actually criminalize folk on the basis of religious views or um, model standards, which I think is totally ridiculous. So for me, I've suffered with depression for most of my life, and I've gone through various iterations of it, to where it's become completely immobile, to overt suicide ideation, and then also just to the medicalization of myself in attempt to survive. I still don't think that I do a great job of surviving. I'm still trying to figure out why I'm supposed to be here and breathe, and what
Have you
the
switched,
output of
you
everything
switched
is.
the plug off here?
Um,
Okay.
so
It's fine, it's fine. This is the last spell.
yeah. So this is just kind of a snapshot of how I feel in terms of my episodes. It's called episodes. I dare you to walk in my skin for one day. Your light will succumb to dark. Involuntary, you'll be shook and envision sanity from an invisible straitjacket held in skin. You would dare to scream and be coined irate, intolerable, undigestible, a poison to the status quo. You will hush yourself in melancholy, rock in silence, and be questioned, interrogated until you no longer speak. You'll be shy to live. Every whim and thought, an analogy, a weapon to mass incarceration by word, not heard. Psychosis spans withdrawals of a time you used to exist. Memory fades fast, you are unpalatable. So you swallow yourself whole, ingest what they cannot stand, become small, scared, you become a tired limb. You forget gravitating between present and future. You forget words like nurture. You forget levitating between doubt and birthright. You forget royalty and become deceased, and they win. You, the previous blossom sunshine, you cease, you crease, and they wonder how it went wrong, which trauma, which family member, which friend, which micro finite invisible aggression made you cease breath, took levitating from you as birthright, cocooned you to shame, to nothingness, to untraceable footprint, to would-be lung. But dear friend, remember, when your spirit is on the line, you can serenade yourself in past and future, hum the lullaby to ease the chaos, tiptoe around the shards of glass and see the mirror whole, breathe a life imagined, unshackled from the norm, seed a new harvest, echo ways unfulfilled. Take up space, darling. You are a catalyst, no mule. You are a voice in the time of noise. You are seen, you are felt, you are space. You are a teacher from the heart, smiling from the eyes, a praise through word, a dream on palms. You are a shaping and a molding and a making and a raising of self. You are a gold-clad soul, a healer through word and action. You can turn courage to magic again. When your spirit is on the line, gather the shards of glass and see the mirror whole. Okay, one more poem, everybody, and then I'll hand over to everybody else. So I work in the LGBTI sector as my as a daily job. Like I identify as queer as well. So it's very horrific. There was one stage in my life where I was particularly dealing with hate crimes on a regular basis. And it's, I think if you don't understand or if you don't have queer friends, it's very difficult to understand what the urgency around protections, particularly constitutional protections, is for us. Because I remember there was one year where people were just dying left, right, and center. 26 people were murdered in the country, and these things often go unnoticed in the news or mainstream media. So I just wanted to write this poem to shed a little light on my experience working particularly in that sphere and arena of LGBTI organizing and politics. My partner is a lesbian. She wears this label with fear, as if they catch a whiff of her same-gendered affections. She has friends that were murdered, a hate crime, they call it, a mission, as if to say, you do not belong here. When we drive in an Uber, my lover calls me chummy instead of baby, like we are still hiding for safety, for the just in case. My friend is a gay man. When he enters the shop, people change their gestures. High pitch. They call him girl. He is not a girl. He is a man, somehow turned caricature, as if his life is a performance, as if he was just entertaining, as if he was Samizi or is expected to be on, as if there are cameras witnessing his life. My friend is a bisexual. They do not believe he is a bisexual. He can and should only be gay. He can't make up his mind, they say. He is minimalized to be called an after nine, accused of being greedy, accused of never being faithful. My friend is no longer disclosing his bisexuality and frequents the Grindr app only for preservation. My friend is a trans woman. Her documents do not match her appearance. The sex descriptor M has not yet changed to F. They stop her at the airport and ask if she has stolen someone's identity. She cannot get a job because her degree is not in her name. Her dead name can only change if she goes on hormones. She does not want to be on hormones and is erased even though she exists in flesh. My friend was born intersexed. He has a penis and a womb. Intersex does not exist on the population registration. Doctors decided they should be a he. They removed their womb. They initiated this baby on testosterone. Throughout their life, corrective surgeries is endured to fix the damage done to an infant. Bodily autonomy was not a concept for my friend. They were seen as a bad omen. They were spared their life. Many are not. Some are disposed and are left for dead after 1 month. I am queer. It is me. I have grappled with my sexuality like invisible cloth that needs wringing, trying to expel my desire, wishing at water. I was told I could not like girls. I believed I could not and stopped talking, looking and charming them. I resented myself and the men that I chose instead. I induced my own trauma because I never owned the trauma of being told what I could not be. I've since learned to speak, to shout, to say, I am queer, I am here, I love like this, and this love is valid. When they see my lover and they ask how we have sex, what our bedroom activities look like. We are reduced to a fetish under a particular gaze. Lesbians are entertainment. Gay men are viewed in disgust. Trans people viewed as mentally ill. Intersex folk as abnormal. When you say, I have a gay friend, like an annexure to cover your homophobia, it is like saying, I have a black friend when you are spewing racist commentary. In this community, my chosen family, I have been held, cared for, validated when I was told by my bloodline that I could not be me. The dance and the push for change of policy is decolonizing people dubbed a crime pre-democracy. Be kind, be human, be love. LGBTIQA plus is not a buzzword. It's a cohort of people and they have humanity. Thank you so much, everybody. That's it from me. I hope it wasn't too depressing. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Roché. Thank you so much. Can we please unmute and give Roché a huge round of applause?
Thanks to the queers.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you so much for that reading. That reading was so beautiful. I think it wasn't as depressing as you might imagine.
No, no,
It began on a very like high note, on a very positive note. And I don't think one would have expected where it would go. And where it went, where it went was
no, that's right. It was
like
quite
the death.
very,
Yeah, it was not like the death and all is bad and all is glum and so forth. And I think, well, earlier today I was teaching the preludes, T.S. Eliot's The Preludes, and that is so depressing. So analyzing that was just
yes.
like, this is so depressing, and this is not that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It makes me feel a bit better. So sometimes when I read my own poetry, I'm like, oh Lord, nobody should ever read this.
No, you should be standing tall. And I'd like to open the space for questions. If there are any questions or comments, the space is everybody's. So are there any questions? Jacques, the floor is yours.
Roché,
Hi,
I don't
John.
know if you can see and hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh dear. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there's Jacques.
Good. Yes. So I absolutely loved your reading.
Oh, thank you.
I was deeply moved by it. And what strikes me is there's one kind of interrogation you describe where people are interrogated by the law, or by people who have more power, who are sort of punching down to them. And that interrogation silences people. But the way you describe poetry and the way you write poetry that is a different kind of interrogation that invites people to speak, you know, who would normally be silenced. I wonder if you can say something about that
Yeah.
difference, and you, if you like, one or two of the poets who've moved you, who've given you permission, you can sort of name them, and so we can learn from them and love them. But so just how that works for you.
Yeah. So I think for me, I think poetry is really rooted in two things. I think firstly protest and then also healing. And I
Mm,
think usually that's how I try to approach um or rather try to make sense of the world for myself, particularly through this art form and through this craft. And I think that's kind of usually what has inspired me to write the way that I do. I think also for me, there was a time and era in Cape Town when I was running these open mic sessions, and it was also so great because it was quite close to UCT. So we had a lot of students coming in, and we focused very specifically on current issues and issues of the day that were affecting students. And I think that in itself, it gave breathing space to, this cumulative emotions and these cumulative, I think, traumas that we hold as South Africans
Yes.
holistically, and I think for me, that's kind of where I find my writing to be a purpose in my life, particularly when it comes to protest and then when it comes to healing. I think one of my favorite all-time poets has to be someone in Cape Town. Her name is Khadija Tracy Yeager, and she also really recalls, what the brown experience and the colored experience and that mixed race experience is like in Cape Town, and how nuanced it is,
mm,
because there's a particular message of like being erased during apartheid, but then also being co-opted sometimes to blackness when it is convenient. But I also love the use of her reflecting on the ancestry of brown people in a lot of ways, which hasn't come out. So I think that's definitely one poet that I love. And then there's also, my one of my favorite poems of all time is called Midway. I think the poet's name is something Beatty, but it was published in like 1968, and it goes something like, I've come this far to freedom and I won't turn back. I'm climbing through my highway through the old dirt track. I'm coming and I'm going and I'm reaching and I'm sowing, and I won't turn back. And it was basically a poem about the civil rights movement in America at that point in time. And it was so inspirational to me to how not just there in America, but also in South Africa, how poetry was used as protest. And particularly, one of the first banned books in South Africa was James Matthews's book, which is a poetry anthology, and a
Yes.
lot of people don't know
Really?
that. And
No.
that's the power of poetry, and that's what it
Mm.
can do. You capture a moment in time that can completely change people's mind, or let them see a different perspective. And because it's so emotive and so moving at the same time, there's no way that a shift can't happen. So I hope that answered your question, Jacques. But I think
yes,
definitely those two aspects are important to me when it comes to writing.
yeah. I love the combination of the protest and the enormous gentleness sometimes.
Mm. Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't, haven't got,
Go
I don't know
ahead,
what's happened with the
Margaret.
hand.
Go ahead.
You, Margaret.
Yes, I really, I sort of understood what you felt, because I went to an Afrikaans school and I had to learn supposed to speak nice Afrikaans. But
Yeah.
when we were in the class, when we were in the playground, we spoke Afrikaans that sounded more like Cape Flats Afrikaans, very, dan ons het so enjoy,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So I say I really, what I feel is, when I first started writing poetry, having had to learn all this Afrikaans poetry, all the gloom and doom, and the ach, sy het nie gesterwe nie, maar sy was sommer dood, you know, and all that kind of thing. that all my poems are very miserable, but now I've changed that, you know, I've rebelled against this. I think against all the Afrikaans poetry that I had to learn off by heart. I rebelled against it, and what I write now is got to be very, very light. And that's, you know, there's nothing gloomy about it at all. I can do gloom, but I don't usually do it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, with Afrikaans, it's such a nuanced thing in South Africa because, you know, people don't see it as a Black language. They see it as an oppressor language. And,
Yes.
you know, we constantly have to retell this narrative that it was stolen from slaves in Dutch kitchens and then appropriated and used as a tool of oppression. And so it kind of almost also creates a different kind of erasure of brown people and Black people who speak this language. And that's all they know. Like I said, both of my families, both sides of my family are Afrikaans. This is what we speak at home. So this was this constant having to prove that it belongs to you when it's so innate to who you are. And I always say this, you know, the kind of the varieties and also the dialects that exist in Afrikaans. Black people know much more varieties of Afrikaans than you know, the Caucasian counterparts do. And I think for me now, writing in Afrikaans has also been so liberating because it's something that I feel is taking back. It's a reclamation of my own identity as well.
I'm sure, yes, because I mean now living in Cape Town, and it's more, you know, I go to a church that's you know, very much, I could say a very rainbow church, and you know, not very many white people at the church, and you know, that I can sort of speak quite a lot of Afrikaans there, and I used to work in when I was in Georgia, I used to work for Bospo, so sometimes when I came down here, that's something out of it, you know, Deline Mathieu, the way I spoke, you know. Anyway, so I sort of what shall I say? I identify more with that type of Afrikaans than with the kind of Afrikaans they speak in the Transvaal.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
where your background, your parents' Afrikaans, and not what you learned at school. You know, that's a big difference. Definitely.
So I see someone posted in the comments section what my favorite poem is. Yeah, it's called Midway, and it is over there. Please look it up, everybody. It's really a beautiful poem.
Yeah, and in the chat, there's the messages from June, Roché, wonderful as always. Lisa, you are magic. Elsie, Tramankansi.
Tramakazi.
Tramakazi. Yeah, well, my Afrikaans is shaky at best.
That's a bit of koi though, a bit of ku coming through there. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your commitment to craft. And Jerome, she be poetry, she be Roché. And then we have Harry Go. And I just posted the poem. It's by Naomi Long, Majet, and Elizabeth. You have a question. The floor is yours.
It's more a comment. Do you remember me, Roché? Liz from
Liz,
Power?
how are you? Yes,
I'm very well, thank you.
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, Roché and I were involved with Power, People Opposing Women Abuse, and we published one of your very lively stories. Just to say, I admire your courage, and I love your voice, your repetition, which builds up as the poem progresses. Very expressive and lovely. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. And I'm so glad that you came to listen this evening. And I really do still cherish that time that we spent together.
Yes, good. Thank you. I enjoy it as well.
Thank you, Liz. Jerome, the floor is yours.
Evening, everyone. Roché, big fan. So much love for you. Um, she be everything. I love your work. Um, I wanted to know when Cape Town will get you back because we need you here to organize some poetry events. Joburg has had you for long enough. Um, but I want to know more about your writing when you get started because beautifully you grab um, scenes for me, you grab characters so beautifully for me. So I want to know when you start with your writing, um, even your story of the rape, like it's so powerful where you don't take everything, you just give enough. I want to know how you get going with your writing once you have the idea or the theme. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerome. Oh gosh, I'm dreaming of coming back to Cape Town. Somehow I don't know when that will be yet. The Gauteng province is still keeping me here. But I think eventually I will make my way back. I have no choice. My family is there. It's my home. Everything that I love is in Cape Town. So one day I'll come back. I will. I have to. Also, I want to be buried in Paul. I know I sound like I'm planning for my funeral, but sometimes these things need to happen. Um, with the framing of things, I think for me it usually starts off with the emotion, firstly, trying to make sense of it and trying to give word to it, and then framing it by a story as well. Because I think, particularly within our context here in South Africa, there's so many nuances that affect the way that we experience violence, experience othering, experience, silencing and marginalization. And so for me, it's important to also give a holistic kind of framing as a human being, not just one aspect of a point of view, but also to humanize the trauma as well. Because I think that's often what we don't do when we speak about these violences. It's usually in terms of very crass language, like it's become news headlines and it's become so unaffected by these things. And so I think personal narratives and giving context to a holistic story is what I try to create, and hopefully I succeed. But thank you so much as well for the compliments, Jerome. I really appreciate it. It is definitely motivation to keep on writing.
Hey, thank you, Jerome. Are there any other questions or comments? Ed, the floor is yours.
Hey, Roché, wonderful to finally hear your voice at the Wheelbarrow. Hey.
Thank you so much for having me, Ed.
Very, very welcome. I think I felt the sustained quality of the poems really powerful, and very instructive what you said about protest and healing being the two kind of anchors in a way, or driving in the picture. But I get a lot out of the way you sharpen the focus and what you referred to as nuance a little while ago. There's definitely a sharpening of the focus around the issues that you grapple with, belonging, oppression. More observations than anything else. And I think my favorite line, or one of my favorite lines, was, "I've grappled with my sexuality like an invisible cloth that needs wringing." Wow.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Hey.
Thank you, Ed. Are there any other comments or questions? Any other comments? Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Going. Gone. Okay. Roché, thank you so much. Thank you for honoring our invitation, and thank you for this very lovely conversation. You know, I wish there was a space where we could just talk about poetry beyond, the poetry readings. But maybe some other time in some other forum, there would be that sort of space where we talk about issues facing poetry or something similar. Ooh, English.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing everybody else's poems as well. I think I'll definitely be attending these sessions more frequently, now that I know that there are such avid poetry listeners as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, can we please give Roché one last round of applause and we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, and take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 8:50. So go grab a drink, grab a piece of bread, something, and we'll be back.